Good afternoon, good morning to you all, wherever you are in the world. I am glad to talk today a little bit about the Visa Bulletin, what's going on with EB3 in the world right now, and answer any questions that anybody might pose or have online. So the good news, well, I guess I'll start off with the not so good news, or it might not, it's not bad news, is that they are now not issuing visas. We reached the 10,000 cap for the year. But that's going to start again in just 2 weeks, which is great. That's positive. There had been fear that they were going to stop issuing visas as early as August. That didn't happen. They didn't stop issuing visas until mid-September, which is great. And so what I suspect we're going to see is that once October 1 restarts, we'll start seeing visas issued. Now, that does raise a question for people, because I got this question a lot as well. What happens to the people because there were a couple of people who were mid-interview, and the officer came in and said, sorry, we're not issuing any more visas for the year, come back. There are like a large number of people who have interviews set. And the question is, well, what happens? Does the embassy reschedule the interview, or does the embassy schedule the interview? From my experience with the State Department when I was a visa officer, we would just go ahead and do the interviews. And we would just interview the people, give them their visa, and tell them, hey, in 2 weeks, when things are current again, you'll get your visa. That's what most embassies and consulates are going to do. They're not going to reschedule the interview. They're going to tell you, come to the interview, let's talk. And if they issue it, they'll say, well, we're going to issue it, but we're going to issue it to you after October 1. And so it's really important, and make sure that our people at BDB are helping you and we're helping you, is that once you've interviewed in September, if you're one of the 70 being interviewed in September, embassy tells you, hey, you have to wait till October 1. Be sure somebody is going to remind the embassy, hey, it's October 1. You told me you were going to issue my visa. Where are we in that process? And so that's really, really important. If you do your visa interview and you talk to an officer and they're like, great, we're going to issue you, somebody needs to remind them October 1 to go ahead and issue. Because a lot of times I've seen that, even when I was a visa officer, we would tell people, oh, we're going to issue, but life moves on, things happen, people forget. And so you really want to make sure you're proactive in your case, and make sure we're proactive in your case, and making sure that the embassy and consulate are reminded that you actually need to get this visa issued. And for the visa bulletin itself, we did see a 4-month movement on data filing. We saw a couple days on final action. But I told everybody this a couple weeks ago that I suspected that we weren't going to see a large jump or movement, because the embassies and consulate and the State Department is going to want to wait to see kind of what the volume starts to look like, right? If they start to feel like, you know what, we have enough cases with what we have, we don't see a lot of issuances, let's just keep it and maintain it the way it is. I think the real time when we'll see movement will be in December and January, because if they're not seeing a lot of movement on what they have now, they will then try to push and push and push and move forward, because their ultimate goal is to use all of them up, right? And that is a credit to the current administration, is that they do want to try to use up as many of their visa availability as possible. And so while I don't think that we're going to see a lot of movement, we didn't see a lot of movement in October. We did see some, but we'll see a lot more movement, I suspect, in December and January, depending on how many cases they can get approved. My thought is that they probably aren't going to issue as much as they think that they will, and that is going to make them bump it up even more. So I'm confident that, you know, the same kind of movement that we saw last year is what we're going to see this year for 2026, if not slightly more. And so that's what I think we'll be seeing. And so someone asked, you know, will the data filing move forward in the upcoming months? Yes, I do believe it will move forward. I don't believe it'll move forward. It won't move forward in October. Probably not in November either, but I think in December, January, the State Department and USCIS are going to want to accelerate. And therefore we should see some movement in the future. In terms of chart A, chart B, which chart to look at, I think State Department, they said they're going to use chart B, but ultimately the final action date is the one that we're all most concerned. That's the one I think about and the one I watch the most, because that's when you're going to actually get your green card approved, is with the final action date. Date of filing is when you can file, right? And I don't believe we have too many cases that are impacted by chart B as of yet. Chart A is the one. But I do think that there are some winds that are blowing in a positive direction in terms of green card approvals, which is great. I think that we're going to see a lot more movement in 2026, possibly than we saw in 2025 even. So yeah, those are things to think about and consider. And then another question I'd gotten about is, what happens if the world explodes and, is BDV ever going away? And it's absolutely not. I can't say that for our competitors. I can't say that for other companies out there. But I can say that for our company for sure, that we have been around for 13, 14 years and will continue to be around. We have a large presence in the EB3 realm, the J realm, the H2B realm. And so as a business, we are strong, and more importantly, we're dedicated to our foreign nationals and our clients. That is a priority of ours as a business. And it's not one of those things where, one day we're here and one day, we vanish. I have seen that. And a lot of us have seen that with other companies where, because of whatever, they disappear. But this company is incredibly strong. Has a great staff of really hardworking and dedicated people. And I hear so many positive stories from clients every day about what it is that we do. And so the company, won't go away. I have a question here about the wait time. The wait is too long. And I get that a lot. But like I said, I've said before, and I've said this, retrogression has never lasted forever. With any category. Retrogression has always been an up and down and cyclical thing. Even when retrogression lasts 4 years, it eventually goes down. And so better to start early, get yourself in line now, even when it's long, with the understanding that that line will go down eventually, and therefore you will get your green card. And compared to other visa categories, compared to other ways, the ability to live in the U.S. permanently, the ability to live in this country, build a business, build a family, go to school, travel, work, utilize the things that make America special. There is no long wait for something like that, I don't think. People wait for decades. We're not going to wait for decades, but some people wait for decades. Some people cross very, very dangerous paths just for this opportunity to be in our country, because our country has a lot of benefits and rewards. And we attract the best and the brightest in our country for that reason. And so, yes, the wait is long, but I think it's worth it. And I know a lot of my colleagues thinks it's worth it. And the 2,000 people that we've helped gotten green cards and who are now in our country building businesses as U.S. citizens, who have their children in school, who work for BDV. And that's one of our testament to, just how understanding we are of how long and painful this road can be. A lot of our people went through that process. A lot of our people are immigrants. And so, and did the process through us. And they'll all tell you that, it's a hard road, it's a long wait, but it's worth that wait. And again, retrogression, I don't think it's going away, but it will go away. It won't go away this year, but it will go away eventually. And when it does, those people in line are the ones that will be rewarded, or will finally complete the process. Someone asked if a sponsor leaves during the middle of an interview. We've worked really hard to limit sponsor dropouts. We've done everything that we can do to work on that. And I hope that we'll see no sponsor dropouts. That's my goal. That's what I work every day for. That's what my team works every day for, is that we see no sponsor dropouts. But ultimately, it does happen sometimes. It hasn't happened recently, but it does happen. And so what happens next depends on where you are in the when it happens, right? So sponsor drops out at the LC stage, then that's a harder thing to go through. You have to refile. If they drop out after your I-140 has been filed and approved, that's a different thing. If you're consular, there are different ways to finagle and argue with consular over that. So there are different ways to do it. But yeah, I think that's the ultimate answer, is that it really depends on where you are in the process where something like that were to happen. But irrespective of what happens, BDV will try to be there to help you navigate it. So besides waiting, someone asks, is there some other thing that might change? Yes. Right now, for example, the State Department is vetting everybody who has a visa. Everybody who has a visa is getting vetted, or anybody in the process of getting a visa, their case is being vetted. I think that actually would be a great opportunity for the State Department to look and see how many of these cases are actually real. One of the reasons why retrogression never lasts forever is that one way or the other, people find a different way, or they do something different, or their plans change, and therefore they no longer are interested in the visas. That's why retrogression hasn't probably gotten worse, is because when time comes to call up people from 5, 6 years ago or 7 years ago or whatever, these people have vanished. They're doing something else. They don't want to do it. David Baer estimated probably 30 to 40% of people in the retrogression line are no longer interested in doing it, or double filed, or triple filed. You can file 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 I-140s. There's no limit to the amount of I-140s that you can file. And so what you're seeing is that a lot of people who had filed 3, 4, 5, 6 I-140s in the past are no longer interested in the program. And so when their number comes up for interview, they don't exist anymore. And the State Department is like, oh crap, we got to go out and get some more of these people. And so the good thing with this vetting that they're doing in the State Department is, my hope is that they are going to target and look for people who have double filed and have to pick one file or the other file. Or they can look for people who are no longer interested in doing the program from 6, 7, 8 years ago. And you have to remember that a lot of these cases are from people who got caught up in the big freeze that happened with consular. And consular kind of had a harder time issuing these visas for multiple reasons. Between 2017 and 2019, there was a lot of embassies and consulates that just weren't feeling it. They weren't issuing them. And so a lot of people were caught up in that backlog. And the State Department is finding that a lot of those people don't exist anymore, don't want to do it anymore, have moved on with their lives. And so they aren't doing it anymore. And so, I hear people telling me, oh my God, the backlog is so big, But, that backlog consists of a lot of people who double filed or triple filed, or who had a dropout, or who just don't want to do, or who found a different route or different way to do it, right? So like if you married an American citizen, for example, but you also did our program, then you would find yourself in a situation where, that I-140 still counts as part of the backlog, but it's not really the backlog anymore because that person is married now. And so there really is no way to, and there's not really ever been an audit of the actual cases that exist. And so I know on our end, we're advocating that the State Department and USCIS actually go through and audit. And, if someone is dropped out, if somebody's double filed, pick one. If someone's dropped out, let's just make that a record just so that people know. So someone asked, applying from Pakistan. I still think 3 to 4 years is probably what you're looking at. Again, and that's based on not necessarily where the visa bulletin is now, but more on the fact that I don't believe that. I think the State Department is going to continue finding the issue that they're finding now. And that's that when they call people from 2017, 2016 for interviews, those people don't exist anymore. Like the vast majority of them, they don't do it. They don't apply for anyone. They're like, okay, fine, let's go to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And so I'm pretty confident that that's going to remain steady for a while until the numbers start to trickle down as more people get approved. And quite frankly, as less people apply. I think that the way asylum people are not allowed to apply anymore, that makes it a lot harder. That probably makes it a little bit less people who apply, right? If TPS people have more problems, that makes it harder for them to apply too. And so regrettably, the hard environment makes it slightly easier for people to apply and navigate the system, especially with a trusted firm like ours that has done this for a long time. Because if you work with firms that haven't done it for a long time and who've never experienced how it is under the Trump administration, like the way we have, they may not be prepared for the differences and the changes. I think that it's going to take years for the State Department they have to review 55 million visa applications, 55 million. So they're not just focused on EB3. They want to do all visa applications. They want to look for all these people to see who's real, who's not real, who's doing this, who's doing that, and also who actually should be going for this visa versus not going for that visa. And so our job as a business is to target and push the State Department to be like, listen, great, you're doing this audit. While you're doing the audit, I need you to focus on getting rid of these people who are applying for EB, all the EBs who actually don't exist anymore, who don't want to do it anymore. So I think that's the most important thing that our government relations team can be doing right now. And again, yes, long wait. But if you believe that you can start a life in the United States, it's not a long wait. I think for a lot of people, they love that opportunity. So yeah. I think, let me see any other questions here. Someone asked about EP3. Oh, about duration of status. So there is like this proposal before the Department of Homeland Security that right now, if you get a visa and you come to the U.S., you're able to stay in America on your student visa status, even if your visa expires, under something called duration of status. As long as you have a status, you can remain in the United States. The State Department is considering getting rid of that and just focusing on 4 years. That's it. And then you'd have to basically file for an extension to be able to stay in America. We are keeping our eye on that proposal because that would have a big impact on people who are applying for adjustment of status. But essentially, what it means is that instead of having duration of status and be able to stay in the U.S. for as long as you want, you would have to apply for extension with USCIS to remain in America. It's probable that that rule is going to pass. There'll probably be court challenges once it does that might block it for a year or two. Same with TPS. I think there's always going to be like, let's revoke TPS, but that stuff will be hung up in court for years before it's decided, and it may outlast the Trump administration even. And so even when you hear stuff about different rules being proposed, take them with a grain of salt as to whether they're actually going to happen. I think those are like the big things going on today in immigration. Please reach out to me, reach out to our team, make sure we're being responsive. If we're not being responsive, please let me know. If we're not being responsive to your concerns or, things that you've seen, please let us know. We did have a lot of people who were scheduled to do interviews this month. A lot of them were told mid-interview, like, we don't have visas available. And so that's been an issue and a challenge for us. We've seen a lot of different challenges as a business, but I'm confident that this is still one of the fastest and best paths to getting a green card in the U.S., short of marrying an American. If you always want to do it really fast, just marry an American. But short of that, this is still one of the best paths to getting a green card and living in the U.S. and living that American dream. And I thank you all for trusting us with your business, and I hope to do these more often. But great news on the Visa Bulletin. We'll see what happens in November, December to see if it moves forward any further. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.